everyone and welcome to our Angular 2 Forms course. I'm Vasco from the Angular University, and in this lesson we are going to start by learning why do we need a full framework module for doing something apparently as simple as forms. Well, the main reason is forms are really not that simple. Forms can be a very complex part of our application, especially if there is a very large amount of fields, if the forms span several tabs, if there are editable parts of the form that can be edited via a dialog. Forms can be very complex. There can be a lot of business validation rules, interdependent validations depending on multiple fields of the form. You could have a whole tab in error. Could have multiple fields that are related in error. Angular 2 helps us deal with all that. It helps us extract the data from the form in a simplified way, so you will never have to write code that gets the data from the form and populates an object. That's done for you. Also, Angular 2 helps us dealing with validating the form, showing proper error messages to the user, clearly identifying which parts of the form need to be edited. That's the big added value of the forms module. Not every form is that complex. Take a look at this example where we are creating a lesson in a course. So we are going to put the title, the duration, and we're going to put the level, either beginning or advanced, and then we click on a button, create lesson. Now, what we want to do in this form is we want to extract the data that the user types in from the form. Let's start with that. That is called data binding. Let's configure this in a template-driven way. This is the closest that you can get in Angular 2 to the Angular 1 way, if you are familiar with Angular 1. If you are not familiar with Angular 1, don't worry, we are going to explain now data binding for this simple form. What we want to do here is we want to synchronize continuously the content of the form. We want to bind it to this lesson object. This lesson object is an instance of the lesson class, which has these properties. Take a look at the type annotations in the constructor. These are actually optional because we are specifying default values for each constructor parameter. So if we remove the type annotations, we still have type safety in this program. This TypeScript feature is known as type inference. Now, the forms module is optional. If we want to make use of it, we need to configure it in your application. We need to pass it to our bootstrap function. We need to call there the provide forms function from the Angular/forms import barrel. Now, what we want to do in this form before using NgModel is we want to turn off certain HTML5 features that are on by default, because we don't want HTML5 to be handling the validation of the form. We want Angular to do it. For that, we simply use the noValidate property in the form. We also don't need autocomplete, so I'm just going to turn it off. Let's also output the value of the lesson object to the screen using the JSON pipe so that we can see bidirectional binding in action. Now let's configure the title field to be bidirectionally bound to the lesson title property. For that, we're going to use NgModel and we're going to assign it lesson.title. This syntax here with the two parentheses is called the banana box syntax. If we try now this out and we start typing in the title lesson field, we're going to see that the lesson object is automatically kept in sync with the content of the input field with each key-up event. So this is the NgModel functionality in action. We don't need to code anything for doing data binding. It's done for us automatically. If you enjoyed this tutorial, you can always subscribe to my channel for more upcoming Angular 2 tutorials. Also, have a look at the website of the Angular University to see what type of Angular 2 tutorials you find there that you might like. But that is only half the story of Angular 2 forms, data binding. Let's inspect the HTML. We have here several state classes: valid, or it could be invalid, touched, pristine. NgModel is also helping us validate this form, and we are going to see exactly how to do validation in the upcoming lessons. So stay tuned!